Hey guys, we're here for our last part of the spirituality videos. And back to the idea of love, I wanted to pick up with the idea of explaining the difference between what love is comparing to what like is. Right? If you like somebody, that's great. Um, and it can be a powerful, powerful emotion, right? But as far as love, this is more of a decision. It's a choice. And I want to give you an example. When my wife was pregnant, and it was a weekday, and it was late at night, maybe 2 in the morning, and she reached over and she woke me up, and she said to me, "Hey, I really am having a craving for some chocolate ice cream." And I said, "Oh, okay," like half in a stupor. And I went out and I went downstairs and I opened the freezer, and there was vanilla and mint chocolate chip, no chocolate. So I went back upstairs, half asleep. I'm like, "There's vanilla and mint chocolate chip. What would you like?" And she's like, "I really am feeling like chocolate. Could you go to the store and get me chocolate?" And I'm like, "I got to work in the morning." And she's like, "Please." And so yeah, I did not like her in that moment, not at all. Um, but I grabbed my jeans and my keys, and I went to Tops and got some chocolate ice cream, right? And so this was a decision that I made. This was not this was not an emotion, right? This isn't something that I felt, right? If anything, I knew I loved her because I was having the negative emotions of not liking her very much in that moment. And that's kind of what love really is. It's the most powerful force in the world that motivates our behaviors into serving others and being kind. Love, and here I have the definition there: the choice to decide the good of the other person over the good of the self. A friend used to identify it this way: a gift freely given with no strings attached. Choice, decision, given are all decisions of the mind, not the heart. The heart needs to be led by the head, by our decisions, right? Not the other way around, where our mind is completely controlled by our emotions, right? And if we think about it, isn't this kind of why we have so many divorces? Um, is that there are so much focused on the emotions, right? A person gets married, and that nothing's higher than that, and I'll always feel the same way about this person. I'll have the same emotions about this person, and then 2 years in, like we said, emotions are transitory. They're always changing, and so how are they supposed to maintain that level of emotion um, with with a person? And it just doesn't happen, right? As they, leave the cap of the toothpaste open, and they don't pick up after themselves and stuff like that. Things that I don't like this person because he does this or she does that, and so so those emotions start fading. And if people are associating love with emotion, and they think, "Well, I don't feel that way about her anymore. I don't feel that way about him anymore. Well, then I must not love him." And so, and that's why so many, when that wave of emotion goes away, they feel like, well, that's it. That's the end of it. And that's unfortunate. And and I also want to kind of mention here that the opposite of love is not hate, right? Because hate is just as equally an emotional experience. And if love is a choice, a decision, then the opposite of that has to be a choice or decision too, and it's selfish utilitarianism. It's Utilitarianism is the ability to use something. Something has a value if it's useful. Well, selfish utilitarianism is, how can I use this other person, right? Um, and so, as your behaviors are more consistent with characteristics of love, your level of spirituality is going to deepen. That's one of the really important parts about this idea of love. This might be a controversial idea, and you might never have thought about love as anything but an emotion. But when you kind of walk through it, you see that love deserves better than just being called an emotion. Next thing I want to talk about is spiritual doubt. It's common for somebody to their level of spirituality to kind of like come in, come out. That happens to all people. And it's not uncommon for people to experience kind of spiritual feelings of doubt, right? They lose amount of that spirituality, whether or not it be something that happens to them, some traumatic event that happens to them, or grandma dies, or you lose your job, or something terrible. Um, but sometimes doubt creeps in, and you might question the need for spirituality. And actually, it's a good thing if it causes you to learn more and seek out more information. If you're constantly learning and it challenges you to think more about it and to um, see where is this, where can I grow from this, then it's a good thing. Doubt is a good thing. But doubt about spiritual things is bad if it causes you to abandon all pursuits of bettering yourself, right, or furthering relationships. If used as motivation, it's usually replaced with a deeper level of spirituality. So don't fear doubt. Spirituality always can be restored. Just don't bail on it. Don't bail on making yourself a better person, which is what spirituality is. All right, next thing, cognitive dissonance. Often, people who attempt to be spiritual have high values. And when your behaviors are consistent with your values, you feel at peace, right? I have values for this, for myself to be this certain way, to act a certain way, and you feel at peace. And my behaviors match that. But when your behaviors become lower, like you don't live up to them, I don't believe in stealing, but then I took this one thing from work or whatever. It kind of creates what is called cognitive dissonance, or this unease. And this cognitive dissonance is the mental conflict one feels when one's behaviors don't match up with their personal ethics or values. And there are two ways of doing this, two ways to trying to restore harmony, right? And um, you see over there, you see Homer. He's fighting between his angel or his devil, right? This notion of, well, I could lower one's value to match the lower behaviors, and this is a worsening of character, right? So I had these high values and then my behaviors didn't live up, so I'm just going to drop my values. Or you had these high values and behaviors didn't match up. Well, I just need to raise my behaviors to match the high values. And this will restore peace and an increase of spirituality. So cognitive dissonance, that's another thing that I wanted to cover. Last thing I wanted to kind of talk about here is it's also for people who get upset when their beliefs are challenged. So somebody brings up something, or somebody um, contradicts somebody about politics or religion, right? And those are the two things we're not allowed to talk about, right? And it's partly because it gets people uneasy, and this is cognitive dissonance as well when their beliefs are challenged. So when beliefs that we held are contradicted by new information, or this conflict activates area of the brain involved in personal identity and emotional response to threats. So we feel like we are being attacked, right? Somebody talks to you about religion or about politics and you don't particularly agree. It can cause this fight or flight response. And we can shut down and not listen to people. And that's why when we're talking politics, sometimes people, you can't get through to them, right? That's because they have gone into this fight or flight, and you can't learn when you're dealing with fight or flight. The learning center of the brain shuts down. A developed self esteem, a higher level of maturity allows us to handle the emotions of this. So, this is always our goal, not to run away from these conversations, but to improve our confidence. And that's what we're here to do.